everyone. My name is JC Hood, and I am the Public Programs Manager here at the Rory Myers Children's Adventure Garden at the Dallas Arboretum. We are so excited that you are here with us today for our first ever Discovery Lab Live. Unfortunately, the garden does have to close at the beginning of the year for routine maintenance, but while we can't be with you right now, we want to take learning to your home. So during closure, you can join us every week on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. to check out awesome experiments that you can do at home. If you want to check out next week's experiment, you can always subscribe to our weekly newsletter at dallasarboretum.org for the Rory Myers Children's Adventure Garden, and you can grab all your supplies in advance. Now, this time, I would love to welcome to the camera our Discovery Lab specialist, Laura Capang.
Hi guys, today we're going to be doing a fun and exciting experiment with milk. For our experiment today, we call this one On the Move. We're going to be using some fat-free skim milk, some whole milk, and some half and half. You might not have all these milks around the house. That's okay, you can do the same with whatever milk you have. Maybe try some cream or try some other liquids too. So we're going to be doing a fun and exciting experiment about something called viscosity. That's a big word, isn't it? Viscosity is how much stuff gets slowed down in a liquid. So we're going to be starting off with some water because water has a very low viscosity. Things move pretty easy in water. When you go swimming, you can move around in it pretty easy. And then we're going to experiment with some things that have a little higher viscosity, which means they have things in the water or in the liquid to slow things down. So that's going to be our experiment today. Give me just a second and I'm going to move around to a tray where you can see what we're doing.
All right, folks, here is Laura.
Okay, so on my tray, I have a little cup of some water, skim milk, whole milk, and half and half, because that's what we happen to have in our fridge here. I've got a little bit of food coloring. I'm going to be using a pipette to do our food coloring. You might have a little jar of food coloring that you just squeeze and one little drop comes out, because it's really important we just get one drop at a time. I have some dish soap and some Q-tips, or ear swabs, whichever you would prefer to call them. So we're going to start off. I'm going to use my pipette and I'm going to suck up a little bit of this food coloring. And I'm going to drop one drop of food coloring in here. And what do you think is going to happen when I drop my food coloring into the water? Let's see. What's going on with that food coloring? You'll notice it's spreading out pretty quickly. And if we just leave it alone, pretty soon that food coloring is going to mix with all that water, because water has a very low viscosity. Remember we said that means it lets things move around in it a lot. Now we're going to try the same thing with our different kinds of milk. Before we do that, actually, let's take a minute and look at our milk. I've got some skim milk here. If I move my skim milk around, I notice it looks like it's a little thicker than the water. Okay, the whole milk, that looks like it might be a little bit thicker yet. And then half and half is half whole milk and half cream. And if you notice, it looks like it's a little thicker. So let's see what happens. If I drop one drop of food coloring into the skim milk, one drop didn't want to happen. Look what's happening to it. Is it spreading out like in the water? No, it's not, because milk has a higher viscosity. Let me suck up a little bit more, and let's try a drop in the whole milk and see what happens. Well, what do you think is going to happen? Anybody have a guess? I'll give you a minute if somebody wants to type in a comment. I see we do have some people online. No one's feeling brave yet, huh? Let's add a drop. Look. Notice it's moving even less than the skim milk did. Now, what do we really think is going to happen with the half and half? Let's give it our one drop. Look. And it even has a smaller drop. And you'll notice our water now is almost all mixed in. So because the water has a lower viscosity, the food coloring has been able to spread out more. There's more room between the molecules. As we go up, the milk has changed. The difference in the milk is the amount of fat in the milk. So something that's always fun to do when you have fat is to experiment a little with some dish soap. Because if you ever watch the commercials for dish soap, it always talks about it cuts grease. And grease is basically fat. So we're going to take a little bit of dish soap onto our thing, and I'm going to just drop it right here. Oh, look what happened. So the soap made the milk or the food coloring scatter in the milk. That's because soap takes those fat molecules and separates them out. It kind of encases things and tells the fat, go away. Look what happened. Let's grab another one. What do you think will happen with our whole milk if we try that? Let's give it a try. I'm going to take this, I'm going to drop it. Whoop. Moving around even more. I've got one more guy here. Woo! He went way out far. So there's a lot of fat. So that water is really making, or that dish soap is really making that fat separate out. So we can, even if we touch again, we can move it around. You can even try adding multiple colors in there and make some art by separating the fat from the milk with a little bit of dish soap. Another way you can try this experiment at home is try it with some other liquids. I kind of wonder what would happen with orange juice. I don't know. Or a soda. There's all sorts of different liquids you could try out and see what happens with the viscosity. I wonder if I dropped it in a little bit of honey, what would happen then? So experiment at home and see what happens.
All right, folks. I'm going to see if we can move our camera back over to our counter. Okay. Am I back over here yet? Yeah. Just a second. This is our first time doing it, so thank you for sticking with us. All right, we've got our other camera ready now.
Okay, awesome. So we tried this experiment again, remember, with some skim milk, whole milk, and half and half. You can try whatever milks you have at home or other liquids. See what happens. What happens if you put different colors of food coloring in at the same time and drop that little bit of dish soap in? You can make this experiment your own at home. And I hope that next week you will come join us as we learn about density while we make density rainbows. Hang on, JC wants to come and say one more thing.
All right, thank you, Laura. I want to thank you so much for coming out and joining us for our first ever Discovery Lab Live. If you liked this, please be sure to like our Facebook page, subscribe to our twitch.tv/RMCAG, or subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can find us streaming every Tuesday at 4 p.m. with a new experiment. And like I said, if you want to know what materials you need to be able to join us next week, you can go to dallasarboretum.org and subscribe to our Children's Adventure Garden newsletter, or check out our Facebook page where we will share all of the ingredients for you for next week. All right, join us next week for density columns, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye, everyone.